provision of the earth, that first and foremost Genesis 2:7, that said God formed man out of the dust of the earth and breathed into man the breath of life, and man became a living being. Now that same earth, God said that he's going to till it, and that same earth, God said that he's going to return to it, talking about the body. Now in the provision of that possibility lies the chances of the manifestation of the footstool of God era, which can also be referred to, which is primarily referred to as the era of shadow. So through the footstool of God on the earth is God's footstool, and the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Despite the fact that man has been is now internally separated from God, God could still reach out to man. God could still use man because of the provision he made available, courtesy of the earth. You see? But he could reach man in the shadow form. When you stand on the earth and the sun incident on you, your shadow is cast on the earth. A symbolic representation of this reality is the miracle of shadow casting on the sick and healing the sick that Peter performed. It's something similar. God's shadow was cast on the earth, and those that recognize God were healed by his shadow. Now in reaching out to the dust through the shadow of God and the footstool of God, or the footstool of God as the case may be, it is important to note that God gave some certain acts that man is to get himself engaged or embark on, in order for man to be able to reach out to him, and for him to be able to reach out to man. And this is what gave birth to things like animal sacrifice, water purification processes, burning of candle, burning of incense, climbing of mountains for prayers, using of swords, wearing of garments, the use of barefootedness, just to mention but a few. So these are the things that man started doing to enhance the possibility of their utilization of this footstool of God, the shadow of God. Now it is important to take note of the fact that all those religious traditional rites that were being performed, the various feasts that were being carried out, were all meant for God to be able, God's shadow or God's footstool to be able to reach out to man. And that was actualized in the era of shadow. Though we have passed this level of the lecture on the journey to eternity, we are supposed to even migrate from the era of salvation to the two-in-one era, which is a very sensitive discourse. But it pleases the Lord that, despite the fact that we have to get to that point as at today's discussion, but it pleases the Lord that some elaborate work should be made on the issue of the era of substance and the era of salvation.